Pee-pee, you wanna come up here?
Soka. Hey, no. Don't bite the cord, honey. Hey. No. Anyway, welcome back to the Logging Off Podcast, episode 11.
So
we're a week behind.
Yeah.
Your
we just dropped
podcast
episode
now.
12.
Yeah. So we're on episode 11.
11.
Another day of talking about our favorite things and our least favorite things.
Yeah, I think is this the end of our season 1?
Should it be the end of our season 1?
I guess so.
11 sounds like is a bit of a weird place to stop, though.
Then we can do it next week.
12 episodes a season. That sounds reasonable.
We'll have to figure out what.
We haven't done books.
Oh, books. Yeah, we can end next week.
Gotta do books.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay, so this week we're going to be talking about our favorite TV shows.
Woo! TV shows.
We got our top 3 and then
Honorable
mentions. I have 3 honorable mentions. I won't go in depth about all of them. I'll just
Sure you
list
won't.
Maybe my honorable mentions are on your list. I think there's a chance.
Maybe. It's possible.
So
Yeah. Let's see.
yeah.
Yeah. Today we're going to be talking about shows. How would you define your list? Is it like ones that you enjoy watching the most or ones that were impactful?
Both. And my most rewatchable shows. There's shows that I could watch, finish the whole run or whatever, start right back from the beginning.
Oh gosh, that made me think of another show.
And each of them also have had a significant, maybe not a significant, but have made an impact on my life in one way or another.
Mm-hmm. That just made me change my list because I remembered one and I had to bump one of my top 3 down to honorable mentions. Oh, okay.
All right.
Well, I wonder, are yours in a particular order?
I just have them going 3, 2, 1, and I have them ranked from. Yeah, I have them.
So
ranked
you do.
3, 2, 1.
Okay.
Yeah.
Should we go lowest and then have our number 1 show be the last one, and then we can do our honorable mentions after?
Yeah.
Okay. You go first.
Okay.
I went first last time, I think.
I don't remember, but I'll do it.
Yeah.
All right. So my number 3 show, is Ted Lasso. I think that show is just a perfect balance of all things, serious, funny. It just feels like real life. It's not sometimes in TV shows it's just dramatic things that probably that definitely do happen in people's lives, but don't happen on probably across the board, consistently in everyday lives. But I feel in Ted Lasso, it's just kind of things that the average human is gonna struggle with, probably within the year you're gonna experience anxiety, heartache, those things,
Challenges.
Yeah.
For those who haven't seen it, Ted Lasso is about an American football coach. Does he coach college?
Yes.
Who gets hired to teach or to coach a Premier League football team in the UK.
Yeah.
And he's got this, at least from the outside, very happy-go-lucky, always positive, always seeing the bright side type of personality. And this football team,
the most optimistic person you could think of.
Yes, most optimistic person. And then there's lots of subplots between individual players. But the main storyline, without giving away too much, because you should watch it if you haven't, it's about, what would you say? It's about Ted.
I think it's about
rehabilitating
yeah.
this team and all the things that coincide with that
Yeah.
effort.
And his like inner struggle, like specifically with like anxiety and panic attacks.
Yeah. Family stuff.
Yeah.
Coping mechanisms for his past. Yeah. Ted Lasso kind of seems like an unshakable character, especially in season I can't remember when the first panic attack happens. But for the first probably like 5 or 6 episodes, he seems unshakable. He never gets...
I think the first time you see it is when has to sign the divorce papers, right? When he's at the hotel.
Oh, yeah. And then they go to the like club, like the karaoke club.
Yeah.
And he freaks out in there. Yeah. So the show, it's incredibly dynamic, and there are characters, the character arc that have like the most significant arcs. They're so believable, and there's so much just uplifting dialogue and characters that you can absolutely see yourself in. Yeah, I also have that as my number 3.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the one that I swapped in for something else.
So I think that the reason why I say that it's like different than like other shows, especially when it comes to like just when life gets real, because I feel like I'll use The Bear, for example. The Bear is an incredible show. The Bear uses a very serious situation in one of the characters' lives that is kind of like the catalyst for like all of the trauma in the show. And while what people are feeling and experiencing in the show might be like emotions felt amongst the broader audience, that catalyst is not like something that everybody will experience. And same for Ted Lasso, but Ted Lasso with the like divorce thing, that is kind of like way in the backseat. Like that's just like, here's the situation, but like this is like what the focus is like how the emotional turmoil that he goes through, and like applying that to his like work life and his day-to-day life, and like how it does begin to impact his work life. But anyways, just like all this balancing where I feel like with a lot of other shows, like the trauma situation and then the emotions that come with it are so like intertwined that you can feel sympathy for the characters in the show, but at the same time it's like, well, I've never like really been through that, so I don't really know. Where I feel like Ted Lasso, the situation that causes the trauma and then all the trauma that the character experiences, there's like a little bit of like a separation because you're not seeing like the whole. I don't know if I'm making sense.
I might ask a follow-up question.
But like because you don't follow like the wife, like because or his ex-wife, you're like just following him and his emotions, and so like you don't get the full picture of the divorce. It's just kind of like this is the first domino to fall, and then a lot of other things like happen for Ted. So
you're saying that the catalysts for his emotional reactions and like where he struggles is not in the audience's faces too much, to the point that it like you have to have experienced it to relate to what he's going through. Like it's just a myriad of things can cause someone to struggle in the same way that Ted is struggling. Yeah. So he's relatable to the audience. Yeah. Even if you haven't experienced like a divorce or something like that. Okay.
Whereas like in The Bear, I feel like that trauma that like Carmi goes through.
Yeah.
It's kind of like I feel for him, but I don't like connect because that situation is like so ingrained into how they wrote that character.
Right. And Carmi is like always under the pressure of that stress and anxiety and fear. And like he almost like burns his apartment down because he has those like night sleepwalking episodes.
Yeah. And we're also not like working in Michelin star restaurants getting like grilled by
so scary.
Your head chef. And like we might have bosses like that, but that's not like a common thing that's like across all people.
That's like a crazy ego.
Yeah.
Intense environment, like high stress, saying crazy stuff and just being like whatever about it after.
Yeah. So I think that,
it's grounded. It's like down to earth.
Yeah. And not to say that like the divorce isn't like a part of the show, because it definitely is. But just the way that they write it is really easy to sympathize.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
It's so dimensional, I guess, in that aspect.
Mm-hmm. It feels I one of the things I appreciate the most about Ted Lasso, the show, is the fact that it's grounded and feels as close to normal as like these obscure circumstances can feel, but still you can still feel how much intentionality was put into so many of the episodes and storylines. Like the showrunners wanted to guide the watcher in a certain direction, and teach lessons and instill values into the audience. And it didn't feel heavy-handed, but it's very clear, especially on like the second time watching, how much your opinion shifts on certain characters and how you watch the characters either exhibit or learn empathy for one another. And like you see characters apologize for things that are really hard to admit. And it's just really beautiful and like didactic without being preachy, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
great
then Roy and Jamie's relationship.
What a great storyline.
Just when he punches his dad, like that hug in the locker room, man.
Yeah. It still makes me cry.
It's so good.
The build up to it was so worth it.
Yeah.
Because their rivalry and like the hatred between the two of them is really palpable, and you kind of I don't think at any point in the first couple episodes did I think that they would be going in that sort of direction, like having a close relationship. I thought maybe they would reconcile and be like chill with each other. But they ended up finding, so much, strangely, a lot of, not similarities necessarily, but things that they could relate on and respect each other and grow. And obviously Jamie grows a lot from the start.
Yeah, they just announced season 4. So
surprising. We definitely thought the show was over.
It was intended to be over, but this is the same thing I said with your dad with like Joker and Joker 2. Mm-hmm. Joker was $1 billion movie.
Yeah.
And when it comes to $1 billion movies, the studio doesn't care if you only had one movie planned. You're going to go make me another $1 billion movie. So I want to say it's probably the same with Ted Lasso. Not that Ted Lasso is $1 billion TV show, but that it's won so many Emmys.
Yeah, it's so well universally loved.
Just so loved. I'm sure the ratings are crazy. And they probably have made a ton of money off of it. And people love it. And I think that they also know that they didn't wrap up every storyline. Like, they definitely left a lot of things. Not a lot of things. They left a handful of things unanswered, which I think sometimes is good because you just let the viewer's imagination kind of run free and you let the viewer write fan fiction, so to say.
Yeah.
For like what happens. And so I think that can be good. I'm not opposed to them doing a season 4. There is rumors as of right now that Jamie, the actor for Jamie, is not going to be in the show.
Cancel it.
I think that would be a big problem. So I think they're going to do a season 4. So my eye is itchy again like last week. So I think if they're gonna do a season 4, they should do it like, it's already been a couple years since season 3, so just don't rush it.
Yeah.
Like, if you have to wait another 6 months to start filming because you need the actor for Jamie to
Please do.
for his schedule to free up, then wait for that. Like, you're already not on like a
Regular schedule.
regular schedule because you thought you were done at season 3. So, I'd say just wait it out and wait till you can get all the right pieces together.
Truing.
I think the biggest thing probably for us that we'd be interested in seeing is Ted and his ex-wife.
Yes.
I
They definitely implied that there might be some reconciliation between the two of them, which is, I don't know if I've ever seen that on TV.
Yeah.
I would love to see that on TV.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, divorce is a lot of different things to a lot of different people, and grounds for divorce, different based just on your morals, your religion, all those types of things. But people really do kind of laugh at and like mock when like couples get back together. So like I think the most recent one is like Ben Affleck and J-Lo.
Oh yeah.
Which in I guess some ways is like kind of funny, but I think generally just like a healthy reconciliation, I'll say, is something that's just like crucial, especially when you just talk about like marriage and the sanctity of marriage. And like, marriage isn't just dating. Like, it's not like dating on steroids. Like,
no.
it's a commitment of life. It's a commitment of yourself, and
it's a choice you make, and unless you absolutely have to, you don't unmake that. You can't unmake a promise.
Yeah, because you're committing yourself to like, even when the rain is pouring and life gets really hard, like, I'm gonna be here. Obviously, I think there are things that are grounds for divorce
that
sure.
merit separation
And I'm not saying you never divorce, but that idea of like something happening and putting a strain on the marriage, and then like in this situation, an actual divorce. I mean, as far as we know, the divorce went through. I guess we don't really know.
That would be crazy if it didn't go through.
Yeah, because like I said, she was just dating that other guy.
Yeah, we don't really see them unless they're visiting.
Yeah, we don't know
Ted.
if did she sign her papers? Like, I could easily see maybe not easily. I could definitely see like the intro to episode 4 or season 4 is like her wanting to sign the papers, or like her getting Ted sign the papers and like not knowing how to feel about it, and like
that would be crazy.
Not going through, but anyways, it's like going through those tough times and then coming out of that reconciled is definitely not something that you see in mainstream media.
No, and I appreciate the arc that they've already had, and like I would say, analyzing the ending, they left it somewhat open-ended, but in my opinion, the last bits of communication we see between Ted and his ex-wife definitely indicate that like a love has been rekindled. And and if you watch the show, I think you learn pretty quickly that the reason that she separates from him is it's purely based on like emotions, and at most I would say it's like struggling to communicate or feel like she's being communicated with honestly. And it all ties in, like it's like Ted's anxiety and his refusal to be like weak or refusal to be negative is something that like I don't want to say she gets tired of it, but it's like she doesn't know how to communicate healthily with it, and I would say he also struggles with healthy communication. So Ted goes through this whole, arc, and I think that he's grown, and I think that she's grown. Like, I think them either remarrying or staying married, if that happens to be the plot twist, I think that would be just a beautiful thing to see on TV. So I have hopes that they won't trash that for season 4.
Yeah. Especially, the final scene of him back coaching his kids' soccer team and like the looks that they were giving each other.
Right.
It was definitely like, their story's not done.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, great show.
Yeah. Keely.
That's so funny. Okay, well, that was one of mine.
So we shared number 3. So I guess you could bump up one of your.
Well,
or you can just go to number 2.
There's one in my honorable mentions that I will have a lot to say about. So I won't do that. Which one to put which? Okay, this is another one that we can both talk about. I would probably put this either number 2 or number 1. I'm going to put it as number 2 because it's not something that I want to rewatch. Breaking Bad. I watched it. I made the foolish mistake of binge watching it when I worked part-time and then worked partially at home. So I had time to watch it. This show, I don't want to, it's not always like cliffhangers. Like, it's not cheap cliffhangers necessarily, but that show sucks you in. So I watched the entire Breaking Bad show in a very short period of time. And I think without you, that's correct. I'm sorry. You were working full time at the time. I was definitely strongly emotionally affected by that show. And I'm sure, most of you either have seen it or know what it's about. But just briefly, essentially you learn in the first episode that this professor or this teacher, high school teacher, who's kind of just like he's kind of weak. I would say he's not like a very respectable. He's kind of a pushover. He doesn't really have the respect of his family. Like, he's just kind of a pitiful character. We find out that he has cancer. He's a chem teacher. And I don't remember how, I feel like the pilot is absolutely insane. I don't remember when he hatches the idea, but TLDR, he decides to start cooking up meth. And he goes on this insane arc. And I think that show so powerfully exhibits like the evil that is in like the human soul and the evil that can be brought out in extreme circumstances. It's extremely dark, and as many funny moments as it has, it is a grim watch from start to finish. So I put this up here because I think it's just a 10 out of 10 story.
I think it has on IMDb, like, I think like 3 episodes are like in their top 10 greatest episodes of all time.
Oh,
like it
episodes.
just like dominates.
Yeah.
And I've never seen anybody on the internet say anything negative about Breaking Bad.
Yeah, the only thing I see is people arguing about like who's a good character and who's a bad character. What's her name? The wife?
Skylar.
A lot of people debate about Skylar.
Yeah.
But I think that's what one of the things that the show does so well, I don't think you really need to guess too far ahead to, this is not really a spoiler. I think just logic will lead you in this direction. The main character, he is the villain of his own story. He's the villain of lots of people's stories. But the show, and Bryan Cranston, I would say it's definitely partially his performance that gives us this impression. You root for him for a lot of the show. And it challenges you to think about, like, what would you do if you were in this situation? Is like, what is it that you are actually championing as right and justified? Is good intentions, does good intentions justify illegal or vengeful actions? Like, what kind of retaliation is okay? All of these questions are things that he goes through and you go through because he's our protagonist, and he's a likable protagonist for most of the show. And good, honest people, or people who start as good and honest, or people who are good and honest all the way through, you don't like them because they're thwarting your protagonist. So it makes you look inward, I would say, which I think is good.
Yeah. I think
what's happening? I hear pitter pattering.
I think that one of the unique things about the show is this idea of that at least we would call sin begetting sin. And it's just like, another way to say that is just like evil births more evil.
Yes.
And that again is something that like you don't see, especially in the age of like, we definitely live in the age of superhero movies.
Mm-hmm.
And so you don't, that's not like a theme in superhero movies. It's not a theme in like comic books. That's not a theme in most books that you read. Like, it's going to be like, this is evil and here's your hero. Walter White is the protagonist, but he's not the hero. Right. There is no hero in Breaking Bad.
Nope. Just players.
Yeah, exactly. And so while I think it is a very dramatized idea of that, it is something that, like, it is a concept that I do like think about, that like just sin produces more sin, evil produces more evil.
Yeah, evil
corruption
is like a
produces
craving.
more corruption. Like,
yes.
However you want to word that in your own mind, like, it's just, I think that's just like a helpful way to like think about it, and even just to think about decisions in your life. And like, making bad decisions, like one bad decision is going to create another bad decision.
Yes.
Like, and so you see like the full, most dramatic ramifications of one bad decision and how that led to so many more bad decisions.
Right. He starts with such noble intentions. I don't have, like, my pension or whatever is not going to provide for my family, my disabled son. I have to figure out something else to do. That's a noble intention. Where does it lead him? Horrible results in his own life and in everyone's life that he touches. He does not leave anyone better than he found them. Yeah. And yeah, it's absolutely true that evil is like it's just like a vacuum. It's a vacuum, and it just grows and grows and grows. You feed it and it grows more. It's a line that you just keep pushing, and every decision you make that goes against your values makes it easier to make decisions that go against your values. And those small, little bad decisions you make set you up to make bad decisions when you're really pushed to the limit, when those opportunity presents itself. Like, making the right decision is a habit that you build, and making bad decisions is a habit that you build. So, Breaking Bad shows you in a dramatized way, in a similar way to like Lord of the Flies or stories in the same vein, like evil begets evil.
Yeah. Poor Jesse, man.
Jesse.
Jesse. That dude is the ultimate victim
He is.
in that show. Or maybe the dude that maybe nah. Well, yeah. I'm also thinking about the dude that Skylar cheats with. That dude gets the short end of the stick on that.
I can see it in my mind. Bunk.
Yeah. But Jesse, that like, man.
Poor Jesse. I would say he's the closest thing we have to a hero in
Yeah.
Breaking Bad.
Especially with El Camino.
Oh, Camino. So good.
Yeah.
Yeah, Breaking Bad. Watch with caution.
Yeah. If you can't stomach like the real world evils
Yeah.
that exist out there, sometimes it can be hard for me to stomach. Like I remember when we were watching, we would like watch a couple episodes and then it'd be like, okay, put on Friends. Like I need something like complete opposite just to cover my brain with what we just saw, so
Just
that I don't
remind yourself that there's good in the world.
yeah, just so that I'm not going to bed with like these like evil images and words. Let me just see Chandler go on for a little bit.
I'm trying to remember, what was your reaction to what's Jesse's girlfriend's name?
Oh.
To her last scene. That's all I'm gonna say.
Honestly, I feel like with that scene, I was more so just like enamored with Bryan Cranston's acting and like the way that he sells, like, yeah, just that decision.
Yeah. You can see the sympathy in his face. I honestly feel like
literally see him hesitate.
Yeah.
You can see his knee-jerk reaction to good, and then the evil pull him back. Like,
and I feel like he genuinely thinks he's making the right decision.
Yeah.
For himself and for Jesse.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think I like stood up and I like screamed at the TV when that happened. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, I think I was just like shocked at like how you can have a knee-jerk reaction to good, because that was his knee-jerk reaction.
Yeah.
And then he stops himself and he like thinks, and then he makes a decision. Like I think that in that scene, that's what was most like, what?
Yeah, I feel like that was any chance he had of redemption. It ended right then.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Yeah. You could say that. There's definitely a few moments where you could be like, this is the creation of Walter White. Like this is where like Walter White ends and Heisenberg or like whatever begins. Like that is like one of those moments.
Oh man, it's so great. Such a fantastic story. 10 out of 10 all around.
What's her name? I can't think of it. I keep thinking Jessica Jones, but that's
yeah, Jessica Jones.
Kristen Ritter.
Close enough.
That's her real name. Yeah, I can't think of her name in the show for some reason, but we also just finished watching Malcolm in the Middle.
Oh yeah.
And Bryan Cranston,
he's got rage.
Holy cow. So he did Malcolm in the Middle right before Breaking Bad. And just polar opposite characters.
Absolutely polar opposite.
Like Walter White, genius. Like probably the smartest mind in Albuquerque.
Yeah.
Corrupt as could be. Evil. And then Hal, whimsical.
Funny.
Naive. Easily like tossed by the wind. Like, doesn't have control over his kids. Yeah. Yeah, reckless, but like a stupid reckless.
Yeah, good-hearted most of the time.
Yeah. Just it was crazy, and he's he is hilarious.
Yeah.
I remember we were watching the show and we were like, wow, this is like one of the few shows that like is actually getting better as the seasons go on. Because like usually like with Friends, I think the earlier seasons are better.
Yes.
And the later seasons are like, they're celebrities at this point, and it's just like they're getting paid $1 million per episode. Like it's crazy.
There's like nothing burger episodes.
Yeah. And so with Malcolm in the Middle, we were like, wow, this is actually getting better as it's going on. And then there was like a specific storyline that they had like built up to and was so good. And the writers just like threw it out the window and it was like horrible.
The show was bad after that.
So then the show just like kind of like the last 2 seasons, like.
Yeah, what happened? It really went out with a sigh.
The writing just like really tanked. Yeah.
You fell off.
But Bryan Cranston is how carries the show through those last couple seasons.
Yes, so, true.
I'm excited to see they're going to do like a movie or something. I'm excited to see what they end up doing with it. But
I love that Bryan Cranston and Jesse are still hanging out.
Oh yeah,
they do have a tequila brand together, or is it agave? What is it? Mezcal. They're like DJing shows and stuff. I think it's so funny.
All right, my number 2.
Community.
No, Daredevil.
Oh, of course, Daredevil.
Yeah. Daredevil is my number 2 show. I'm currently rewatching it. I just finished season 2 last night, going into the season 3.
Heavenly.
I think so. I love the show for a few reasons. It is the show that like reignited the spark for me to collect comics again, and I haven't stopped since.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, because when we finished watching it the first time, that's when we lived in LA, and then I went to the comic shop and I picked up the whole Frank Miller run, which is what the show's based off of, or not the whole, almost the full run. Daredevil is my favorite superhero. I find he's a very dimensional. He's one of the heroes in both the comics and in the show, honestly, where there's like levels to him. I feel like you can't really say that about a lot of like Marvel or DC heroes. Like Matt Murdock is just such a complex character. Mm-hmm. I think it just starts with the fact that they made him a lawyer for one, and then they made him a man of faith, of Catholic faith for 2. Mm-hmm. And then they make him a vigilante. Like,
right. Sense of justice.
All 3 of those things, like, totally different, like, views on morality. Like,
yeah, people call lawyers like the most morally bankrupt people on earth.
So, Charlie Cox, man, he is just so good in that role.
Yeah.
He's just like, he's so likable, like, for one. And he just like, the thing with Matt Murdock that like Ben Affleck didn't like quite like grasp is just the idea of like having a strong faith that plays into the fact that you want to do justice by people.
Do good.
So you become a lawyer. Becoming a lawyer is not good enough. And then you have like these heightened senses. So then you become a vigilante. But then it goes backwards from there again, because it's like, is what I'm doing under the mask, is that right? It feels right because the law is not doing enough. Mm-hmm. Okay, but am I doing right by my faith?
Right. Am I allowed to operate outside of the law and not sin? Like, what do you do when there's no perfect solution? That's like the solution. He's trying to be all the solutions to everything. He's the vigilante. He protects the innocent. He doesn't kill people, but from like, you see the Punisher, and he kind of shines a light on Matt and his that his, at least from his perspective, his like morals are just hanging by a thread.
Yeah.
Not killing people is causing more people to suffer.
Yeah.
And more evil people to hurt innocents. So there's just this constant struggle, this plate juggling that like falls, and plates fall at different times, and Matt's trying to figure out who he really is even outside of all of these labels, and how they can all come together. And like the show is just, it's so great. It doesn't shy away. The imagery, the lighting, the music. The lighting is
gorgeous.
Yeah, their use of like windows, and like they always have these kind of cathedral-esque colorful lighting, and you have this visual Catholic overtone of the entire show. This grim, dark Hell's Kitchen. It's just like eye candy to watch too.
Yeah,
and it reinforces what's going on internally with Matt.
Yeah. Yeah. So the reason why Ben Affleck's Daredevil, I almost said Batman because Ben Affleck plays Batman, and Daredevil and Batman are like
Ben,
kind of the same thing. But the reason why I don't hate that movie, I think it's fun. Like I
thought it was ridiculous.
No, it definitely is ridiculous. We didn't even finish it.
Jennifer Garner, I can't.
We should finish it because you got to see the Kingpin fight. The Kingpin fight is actually pretty cool.
Okay.
But the thing is like off the bat, he kills somebody like immediately.
Oh.
Yeah, remember the train?
Barely.
Yeah.
It didn't feel like it was worth keeping in my memory.
Yeah. So essentially immediately he like kills somebody, like, and they get hit by the train or run over by the train, whatever. So immediately, like when that happens with Daredevil, you're like removing off the get-go his struggle with justice and how Matt sees that through his faith and how he sees that through the law.
Right.
Because as soon as you kill somebody, like the morality is gone.
Right.
So
the idea, like Matt's love for and desire to see redemption, that's gone.
Yeah.
His obligation to the law, that's gone. So who even is his character anymore?
Yeah.
Besides just the vigilante.
Right. So, yeah, incredible show. I'm very excited for Daredevil Born Again. I don't know why they're calling it Born Again. They already did the Born Again run. The Born Again was like so basically Frank Miller, Daredevil was in the 70s, was not Marvel's most popular character. And not a lot of people were reading Daredevil. Mm-hmm. So Frank Miller was an up-and-coming artist and writer. And he finally got his way into Marvel. And basically, when you're an up-and-coming writer, what publishers do is they say, sure, take like the bottom of the barrel.
Oh.
Like, so at that time, that was Daredevil.
And he just cooked.
And he cooked. And that is one of the most... probably top 5 comic book runs of all time. Like,
wow.
Frank Miller is the reason why Frank Miller and Neil Adams and Denny O'Neil are the reason why we have movies like Joker or the Batman, where it's a lot more serious and less like 1940s, like kapow. Like,
yeah.
It's because they like introduce like this darker side of like, heroes. So anyway, so he writes like issues 150 something or I think it's 158 through 191 or something like that. Mm-hmm. And then he stops writing and it just tanks again after that. So then they bring him back in like the 200s and he does the run called Born Again. And so that run was basically the adaptation in season 3 where Matt is like holed up in the basement of the church, finds out who his mom is, and he's like, I'm gonna kill Kingpin. Like, I don't care anymore. Like, Kingpin, for the sake of the city, like Kingpin has to die. Like, that's pretty much like what the Born Again run is. So this upcoming season that's in March is called Daredevil Born Again, but they're introducing heroes or villains that, like, Muse is a new villain from like the last 10 years or something like that. And
They're probably just calling it Born Again because they're bringing it back.
yeah.
So it probably doesn't have anything to do with the actual Born Again run.
Yeah. But I'm excited to see
Classic.
to see it. They wrote, shot some stuff, and then the actors and Kevin Feige were like, no, this is they did it without Deborah Ann Wool as Karen and without
Why?
Homeboy as Foggy. Can't remember his real name.
Did they recast those roles, or did they just not have
They just
them?
didn't have them.
You can't.
Yeah.
You
Especially
can't do
with
that.
the way that season 3 ended with the napkin that said Nelson, Murdoch, and Paige.
Right.
You literally can't not have them.
You can't bring back Charlie Cox, Daredevil, and claim to have continuity to some degree with the Netflix show and then just leave behind all of the other components that they're bringing back Kingpin, the same actor. So just commit to it.
So they went back, they rewrote, they reshot some stuff, and comes out March.
Let's go.
So
Can't
also
wait.
feel like we watched it before we went to New York for the first time, but after going to New York and so watching the show, going to New York a few times, and then rewatching the show after going to New York a few times, that show feels so New York.
Yeah, it does.
Like it just like really and it's like one of the few, like a lot of those Marvel shows, like they're not filmed in New York and Marvel movies. They're filmed at like in sets in Atlanta and they're like green screened, like cityscape and
I didn't know that.
all that stuff. But Daredevil, like, and I think that's also like such an important thing. And it's a theme that they hit on the nose in the show that this is his city.
Yeah.
And it's a battle of the
ground-rooted.
city. And so New York is such an important character in the show.
Right.
For
New
both
York is
Kingpin.
personified. It's like the prize. It's like the
who will save New York City.
It's almost like the damsel of the show.
Yeah. So it's something I've appreciated rewatching it right now is like it just feels so New York, and I think that's important. Because the first time I watched it, it's like I've never been to New York. I don't know what New York feels like, but
Maybe once in a while Josh is like, I miss New York. So you gotta go again.
Yeah. All right, your number one show.
My number one show is this has been great. The last 3 every show we've talked about is one we've both seen, so we're actually able to have like dialogue about it. But this is one you haven't seen. It is probably the show, I would say it had less of an impact than Breaking Bad, but it was a much more positive impact, so I'm ranking it higher. It's a TV show called Alice in Borderland. It is a TV adaptation of a manga, which I know sometimes TV adaptations of mangas or animes are really but I watched this one before I read the series, and I can't remember why I started watching it. I think I just got curious about it. I kept getting it recommended. And it's set in Tokyo. And you follow the main character's name is Arisu. And he is kind of just like a college kid, but not in college. Just kind of not necessarily like a loser. It's not in like a mockery kind of way. He plays video games. He doesn't really he only plays video games, and just bums around with his friends. He doesn't really have any goals, any objectives. His parents aren't his dad is not proud of him. Just kind of just floating with the wind. And suddenly there's this big hullabaloo at Shibuya Station, and him and his friends end up running from police. They go into a stall. They wait 30 seconds or so. And then all of the sounds just kind of dissipate. And they walk out. They go into the station. They go outside. They look at Shibuya Crossing, which, if you don't know, it's the busiest intersection in Tokyo.
Yeah, JJK created Shibuya.
Right, yes, and destroyed it.
And then Tokyo adapted it from the manga.
Exactly. It's completely empty. Not a single soul. Not a sound. All of the lights are off. There's no electricity. and they run and they search, and there's absolutely nothing. And, you know, they kind of, at the end of a couple hours of searching, they just like end up sitting in the middle of Shibuya Station, eating like a burgers that they found or something. I can't remember what food it is, but they're just kind of, it's kind of funny. Like they're laughing about it and doing probably what anyone would do in such a strange circumstance. Just being like, you know what, this is great. Now I don't have anyone to please. We're free. And they start kind of giggling. And then this big screen lights up behind them. And it's telling them that a game is about to start. And it tells them, go to here to like receive your visa. And they go, and suddenly they learn that they are in how would I describe it? They are in almost like a big arena where they have to compete either against each other or in teams for their lives. And either you win or you die. And every time you win, depending on the difficulty of the game, you get days added to your visa. And if your visa runs out, a freaking laser comes down through the sky and kills you. And I almost can't say anything else about the plot without spoiling it. So I'm just going to say, what am I going to say? As you watch the show, you, along with the characters, are trying to figure out what's going on, who's doing this, what's the reason that they're there. And the manga obviously gets into it a little bit more, but there's such an incredible arc that you yourself experience as you watch. And I remember watching the individual character stories and learning about their past and learning and seeing them through various ways, like push past themselves and almost redeem choices that they made before they were in such dire circumstances, and either survive or die with dignity and die like with peace. It's I got to a point with the show where I was like, you know what? It's actually okay if this show doesn't answer the question of like what's going on, because the experience that these people and these characters have had and the experience that I've had watching it is enough to make this worth having gone through. And it was just like a very profound experience having that, like watching a story that's so shadowed by mystery. Just reaching a place of peace with it as it was. Because, you know, maybe it won't answer the question. Maybe I won't live long enough to see the end. It's like, it's too I can't really explain much more without getting into the more spoilery parts of the show. But I would just say it's absolutely worth watching. If you struggle with blood and guts, you might struggle a bit with this, but it's worth it. It's so worth it. Overall, despite everything I just said, it's a very uplifting and inspiring. Great story. And I think the TV adaptation did a really good job, except the only thing they did, which they shouldn't have done, and there's a season 3 coming out. Okay. So the manga just covers the complete story of season 1 and 2. So theoretically, the show should stop at season 2. At the end of season 2, there's a hint about a season 3. And I was like, you know what? I hope they don't do that. But they are doing it. So I'm really just hoping it's a distinct story, and they're not going to botch the very intentional, important ending of season 2 and the complete story. So I'm just praying, Netflix, please just don't just give us something else with the same concept, but don't let the story of the manga be complete at the end of season 2. So we'll see. It also explores themes similar to Breaking Bad, like when placed in a life or death circumstance is what's going to come out. That's a really important question that the show asks and answers.
Yeah, you told my dad to watch it, and he watched it. My dad liked it.
Yeah.
Which I was impressed by.
Yeah, I knew he would. I knew he'd like it.
Nice. My turn?
Yeah.
I have nothing to say because I've never seen it. So.
Yeah, he should watch it, but...
my number 1 is one that you said earlier. It's Community. So the reason why Daredevil wasn't number 1, I think could probably switch them, honestly. But truthfully, that story, Daredevil's story isn't done. Mm-hmm. So that's part of it.
Yeah.
Also, it's hard to rewatch Daredevil, like, on rotation like that.
Right.
Like,
it's too dark.
It's too dark. Community, I can just... The rest of my life, if all I watched is Community, I would, like...
You'd be
I would
okay.
be content with that. Community is by far... I'm saying this intentionally to be, like, triggering people. It is by far the funniest TV show in the world. And I say that not having watched other TV shows. And I say that not even needing to watch other TV shows to compete.
Doesn't matter.
It is the funniest show I have ever seen.
That is extremely funny.
It is the most clever show I have ever seen.
It's so imaginative and creative.
Yeah, it's so good. Just the different characters, like main characters, what is it? 6, 7 main characters? 2, 4, 6, 7, yes. 7 main characters. And just like the unlikely friendship that they all kind of have and the different places of life. I watched something just the other day. I don't know if it's from Dan Harmon. Dan Harmon created Community. It's from a YouTube channel. The channel's name is Harmontown. And he had like this 4-minute video about Community. And it looked like it was old because he had some interviews from some of the actors, and Donald Glover looked like younger in the interview. But he said that, like, yeah, Community is about like community college. That's like the context in which the show takes place. But it's also mostly about just like different types of outsiders, like forming that community. And I guess I never like really processed that like all of them in their own ways are like, even Jeff, like, are people on the outside.
Yeah.
And so now I can't wait to rewatch it with that in mind.
New reason to watch, new reason to study it.
But yeah, so the show is about 7 people, students at this community college, who kind of just by happenstance become part of this study group for their Spanish class. And then you follow them for 6 seasons. The main character is Jeff Winger, who's played by Joel McHale, and he was a lawyer who faked the bar.
Yes. Is that what it is? He faked the bar exam?
Or yes, like didn't go to law school. Like he didn't have the proper requirements to be a lawyer. He wins like a crazy trial, and then someone kind of snitches on him. And so he has to go back to school and like restart his life essentially. And he just kind of meets up with these other students, and he kind of sees them as like pawns to pass school quicker. But of course they go from pawns to humans in his life, Inhumans that he cares very much about. But yeah, it's so you kind of follow them. You follow Jeff and his turn from seeing them as just pieces for him to mess with so that he can get through school as fast as he can and get back to being a lawyer, to him actually like having a heart and caring for these people. Troy and Abed, just the greatest part of that show. Honestly, all of them, like even Chevy Chase, like apparently he's not much different off camera than he was on camera, and I guess that makes why he played that character so well is because he was that character.
So hateable.
But even if you just see it as the character, like it's brilliant. Like
even Britta,
yeah,
obnoxious, virtue signaling, fake activist.
She's the
beep, beep, beep. I'm better than everybody.
Yeah, she's the epitome of social media.
Yeah, she's just Twitter.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. It's also good. I tweeted the other day. There's an episode called Advanced Dungeons and Dragons where there's a
incredible episode.
Very, very overweight kid is getting bullied because the school calls him Fat Neil. And so the study group is like, hey, we should help him out. Like, let's kind of meet him where he is and play Dungeons and Dragons with him, even though like none of us really know what it is.
Yeah.
Abed, who plays this character on the spectrum, he's like, okay, like I can DM, like no problem. And so they get to playing, but they were intentionally playing without Chevy Chase's character Pierce, because Pierce is like your
such a hater,
racist, misogynist.
Yeah, like so far gone on all of these things.
Basically, whatever racist, misogynist, religion.
Yeah, anything that you can make fun of and be like bigoted about, he was.
He is. And they're like, okay, like we do this without Pierce though. So they do it. Pierce finds out. Pierce breaks in, starts playing, gets incredibly lucky and like takes over the game and like really starts to bully Neil even more. And that's kind of like the conflict of the episode. But one of the characters,
played by what's his name?
He's in Crazy Rich Asians, The Hangover.
Yeah. He's the comedian. His name is I
can't think of his name right now. I don't know why. But he cosplays as a drow. Because he thought that it was like, oh, they're going to play Dungeons and Dragons. Like, they're all going to show up in like Dungeons and Dragons cosplay.
Ken Jeong,
yeah. And so he shows up as a drow, which I think people who didn't watch the show in social media virtue signalers just interpreted it as blackface. And they even make a joke about it on the show from one of the black characters.
Right.
And what did she say? She's like, isn't this a hate crime?
Are we going to ignore this hate crime over here?
Yeah. And social media, I'm assuming kids who just have no critical thinking skills went into an uproar. And now wherever the show is, on whatever streaming platforms, the episode is gone. And it is truly like one of the most like important episodes in the whole show.
Yeah, it's important for Jeff.
Mm-hmm.
It's important. The message is so important because even in their ideally like noble intentions to try to help this kid, they're kind of infantilizing, and they're not really taking the Dungeons and Dragons seriously. It's like they're very much just pitying him, and I don't think they clearly think that they're above it.
Yeah.
And only through
except Troy and Abed,
who are taking it seriously, of course. And only through Pierce becoming an enemy do they start taking it seriously, and do things start to become real instead of just some charade of pity. Instead of virtue signaling.
Yeah.
So just, it's so ironic that episode, it's a shame that they took it down, honestly.
Yeah.
They should have stood on reality.
Yeah.
and kept it up. You can buy it. Like, you can buy the individual episode, which I think we have it somewhere in a digital copy. Because, it's...
I want to get the DVD set, honestly, because I want to see, like, I want to see extended episodes. Yeah, I want the whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, yeah, even when that happened, because it did become an uproar on social media, and when it got axed, some of the characters, and even that character that made the "Are we just gonna ignore this hate crime" joke? She even on an interview was like asked about it, and she was like, "That is not like we made the joke on the show." Right. And she was even just like, "Yeah, this isn't." I don't know if she said this wasn't blackface, but I think she was. It's been a while since I've seen the interview, but her tone was definitely like, "I'm pretty sure we addressed this. I thought it was pretty clear."
Yeah.
And it's just from a character who's dumber than dumb, literally dumber than rocks.
I know.
Yeah.
All the pieces were there, but some people just can't put them together.
Yeah. So it's an incredible episode.
Incredible show.
Yeah. So the show does dip a little bit when Donald Glover's character leaves.
Yeah. SS Gambino or whatever it's called.
Yeah. I did like it more. So the first time I watched it, Gambino leaves, Troy's character, and I remember like you're just like so hurt after that. So I think that really affects the way that you initially feel.
Yeah.
But then the second time I watched it, I was like, oh, this wasn't as bad as I remember. So I wonder if that was just because of like the scar of Donald Glover's character leaving was like healed. And so I can like watch those episodes without like
the shadow.
Yeah, the shadow of like him being gone. But I definitely do remember it the second time I watched it. I was like, oh, this isn't nearly as like bad as I thought it was before. So maybe it just needs another rewatch. But I think like
it was pretty surprising the moment that you realize he's leaving the show. You're like, no, Joey Abed.
Yeah, it's hard I would say Abed's character suffers the most is because they definitely try to like figure out what to do with him.
Yeah, they wrote them as a duo.
Yeah,
buddies, best buddies. They bring out the best in each other.
Yeah. So,
Community movie coming.
Community movie's coming. Yeah. Can't wait.
Okay.
Everybody will be back.
That's so exciting. Okay, the last show I have to talk about, because Community was in my honorable mentions, is a show that some of you are probably surprised wasn't on my list of top threes, Game of Thrones. And there's a reason that it's on my honorable mentions, despite how much I love it and I love the story. It's because season 1 through, I would say 4, maybe 5, especially seasons 1 through 4. Fantastic. I hesitate to recommend it because it's extremely raunchy and it's an HBO show. I don't really think I need to say more than that. They definitely infuse more nudity, more, sexual content than what is in the books, though it is present. I think they bring it more to the forefront, and obviously it's visual as opposed to reading it. So, it's a little dicey there, but the problem that occurred and the reason Game of Thrones isn't in my top 3 is because the show falls off so incredibly hard in season 7 and 8, because George R.R. Martin gave HBO the rights to make a TV show out of his books. And though 8 years passed in the time frame, at least, he didn't finish the books. So the showrunners had nothing to work with, no source material for those last 2 seasons. And it's, as much as I absolutely adore the story that gets told from season 1 through season 4, I would say season 5 is still really good. Season 6 is kind of, and then 7 is really when it starts to go downhill. As much as I love and adore so many of the characters and the stories that they go through,
season 7 and season 8, like there are characters that die that I should have been weeping at their death. But the characters were so disconnected from who they were, from the story that was being told in the beginning, that I felt no connection to them whatsoever. Like there are some episodes, the Red Wedding, you know what that means if you've seen it. I rewatched it recently, and still I had tears streaming down my face for far less important characters than those that die in the later seasons. But it's because the showrunners just absolutely, they thought they were being clever, and they just bottomed out every powerful arc that had been built. I mean, Bran, Daenerys, the Three-Eyed Raven, I guess those would be connected, but Jon Snow. There's one more big one that I'm thinking. Oh, Jaime Lannister. It's such a shame. It's such a shame. I don't know what happened behind the scenes. I don't know why George R. R. Martin didn't stick up for his story more. I don't know if he tried. There's many people that could potentially be blamed for it going down the way it did. But it's such a shame that such a powerful story just lost all of its gusto and lost all of its depth and strength in the last 2 seasons. Like I've never seen. I was watching it live the last 3 or 4 seasons, and I just remember we had like 4 people in my very small office who were watching it, and I remember the tone of the office the day after the bells, which is one of the most like shocking, completely out of left field episodes in season 8, and we just couldn't believe it, and just didn't know what to make of it. So yeah, as much as I would love to praise Game of Thrones and put it in give it its flowers for its beautiful moments, I can't praise it more than it is worth. And how you finish is like so important. So yeah, it's one of something I love and hate, and it's a thorn in my side every time I think or watch it.
Yeah, another show I've not seen.
Yeah.
I'm like,
you're not as much of a fantasy buff though.
I'm like half and half. Like I feel like I could watch it, but I'm also not for like the HBO. Like
yeah,
like I watched like the first episode of Peacemaker, which is a DC.
Oh.
John Cena's character in Suicide Squad.
Oh.
Remember he like that silver helmet.
Oh, right.
So they did a show. Like the first episode was all I saw, and it was like, I'm not like,
I swear.
I'm like having to fast forward because there's like topless women, and I'm like, what is the point of this?
Yeah, it's just to grip like the horny audience.
I know. Probably after that first episode is fine.
Yeah, that's Game of Thrones is somewhat similar. I would say there's good reason to have, though they certainly didn't need to show as much as they did, there's good reason for like promiscuity and death and gore to be like rampant. It's justified in the story. But yeah, they definitely lean into it more to attract like that type of audience.
Yeah.
Or like to just make it more enticing, I guess. HBO, but it doesn't need to be there as hardcore as it is. And it trails off. That's probably one of the better things about the last 3 seasons is that the sexual content really like tapers off, and it's only what's like necessary, I guess, for the story.
If anybody's seen Peacemaker, let me know if it's worth watching.
Yeah.
Because I saw the first episode, and then I was like, okay. I was like intrigued for sure, but yeah, the episode was like riddled with stuff. So I was like, I'm not going to keep watching this. But if anybody's seen it, anything it's worth
Yeah.
continuing, let me know. I'm interested, but yeah, Game of Thrones is another show I haven't seen. So.
I'm at kind of a standstill because I'm not gonna watch. Though I have read the first book and I've read like half of the second book, I kind of refuse to read them until he finishes them because, and I've listened to video essays about like predicting based on what happens in the books that exist. Like this is probably where these storylines were going. At minimum, like this is the characterizations that these people will have near the end of their arcs. And I have had some sort of like Band-Aid reconciliation with that. Just validation that the show really took it in a horrible direction. But I'm like, George, please, you're getting old. Please, please, please finish your books. And I'll read them all. I think he's got like 1 or 2 more left.
Books?
Yeah, books in the Game of Thrones series.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. I think The Winds of Winter is the one that we're waiting on. It's gosh. I feel like it's so frustrating to have such a beloved show crash to the point that I would argue that the way that they took season 8 and season 7, but especially season 8, I would say that they completely lost. I don't think they understood the point of Game of Thrones. I think they just kept playing into the game and it just lost all of its value. Very mad.
2 things about George R.R. Martin. The other day, I was watching a comic book claim sale on Instagram, and a signed comic. I don't think it was Game of Thrones. If it was, I probably would have bought it.
Oh.
But a signed comic, signed by George R.R. Martin, only was going for $60.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
If it was Game of Thrones, I probably would have bought it.
I didn't know he did comics. Or maybe he's just affiliated.
Yeah, I think it's an affiliation thing. But second thing is, do you know what his first ever published writing was?
No.
It was a letter that he wrote when he was 11 or 12 to Marvel.
Really?
That got published in one of the books.
What?
I'm trying to remember.
What was it about?
1963. Comic books, they still do it today. Like, at the end of the issue, it'll put like, email us, or back then it'd probably like write us, what you think about the run so far, or like, write us, tell us what you think about this. And they invite like, feedback. And so, yeah, he was like 11 or 12 at that time, and he wrote in and it got published.
Aw.
And yeah.
Georgie.
So that's his first published work.
It's so funny.
Yeah.
Maybe that's the thing that was signed.
No, it wasn't that one. It was a modern book.
Ah, okay.
But I felt like $60 for a George R.R. Martin signature was probably cheap. I feel like he probably charges more than that. I don't know. But
yeah.
Anyways, I have 2 honorable mentions. One of them is The Bear. The show's not done yet, so I feel like I can't put it into a top 3 list like that. But I think it probably definitely has a good shot, just depending on how it all wraps up. So there's that. My other honorable mention is Better Call Saul.
Oh, yeah.
I think Better Call Saul gives Breaking Bad a run for its money.
Mm-hmm. Quality-wise, it's absolutely... I would say it's the same, maybe even a little better.
Yeah, and the cinematography in that show is... I mean... I feel like cinematography didn't play too much of a like crazy role in Breaking Bad. Like just with like those like aesthetic shots. I can't think of too many like aesthetic shots in Breaking Bad.
Thinking of like the Fly episode. Yeah, I would almost just chalk it up to a different style. Breaking Bad is much more action.
Yeah.
And Better Call Saul kind of gives you more time to marinate. That was my memory of it.
Yeah, I'm thinking like the off-centered shots where it's like like Saul's like in the bottom corner, and it's like the painting in their firm where it's just like the M and the W.
Yeah.
And then there's like some that I've seen on Twitter make the rounds recently is why am I blanking on her name? Rhea Seahorn. What's her character's name?
I don't know that name.
Saul's
His lady. Her name is, of course, Pretty Blonde Lady.
Better Call Saul.
She's also like very likable.
Kim Wexler.
Kim Wexy. Wexler.
There's like some shots of her of smoking a cigarette that have been like made the rounds on Twitter recently of like just like some of the best like shots on TV.
Yeah.
So I think like cinematography is peak. Like,
yeah, I agree.
Like Dune, Batman level. Like just so good. Obviously not like fantastical like those shows, but
yeah, they're grounded in, reality.
But just like the level of like creativity and like just shots that are like gorgeous, different than like everything is like asymmetrical, and it gives you such a strong insight into the character. Like they're not just there to be beautiful, like they're actually like telling stories about the character. The show has a lot of them. My only kind of beef with it is like the first couple seasons, the storyline with the brother, I feel like it goes on a little too long. I feel like it could be like just a little bit shorter. I think that's also it could just be me just annoyed by his brother. Like I'm just kind of like over his brother. I don't have the patience for it.
He's very yes, it is annoying and agitating, but I almost feel like it's important to like contextualize Saul's character and why he does well under pressure, and like why he is long suffering with Jesse and with Walt. So it is agitating. Gosh, when I think about that, I only think about the fire episode. The one where he like rips up his own house.
Oh. Yeah.
Gut wrenching.
But
horrifying.
When it like connects. So that's like the first couple seasons.
Oh.
And then the second half of the show is like
we get connected
direct
to the cartel.
Connects like to Breaking Bad. That's like the
Thrilling.
show is like, I think that can match with any Breaking Bad season.
Yeah.
And compete and do just as well. I mean, Lalo. What a
scary
villain. Yes.
He's
like,
scary.
Truly scary. Because he's so, it's what like, so Joker is like unhinged, but he masks it in uncontrol. Like he's unhinged, but he pretends like he's not in control when he is in control. And that makes Joker like an interesting character.
Okay.
Lalo, I feel like is unhinged and is like super calculated.
Yeah, he is.
And it's opposite to...
It's like you can't throw him off.
Yeah. And it's opposite to Gus, where Gus is like not unhinged. He's super calculated.
Extremely hinged.
He has like extremely hinged. And he has like a...
No squeaks.
Yeah, and he's got like a moral like checklist essentially. And everything is calculated in that sense, but
yeah, I kind of forgot that how much of Gus's story is in Better Call Saul.
And it really makes you like you
respect him more, I think.
Yeah, for me, I watched Better Call Saul, and at the end of it, I was like, Gus low-key a better dude than Walt.
Yeah, Gus should have put a bullet in Walt's head as soon as he met him.
Yeah.
It solved so many problems.
Yeah.
Because Gus was actually like, he had something of a moral compass. Like he kind of wanted to do what he did without bloodshed, without trouble. Like
clean.
Very clean.
Yeah.
Clean, safe, wanted to provide for his family, for his community. Like I would say his intentions, I feel like Gus and Walt are such an interesting comparison. And I can see why Gus gets so frustrated with Walt, because Walt is kind of doing the same thing that Gus is doing, but way messier and way stupider.
Yeah. And
And
accomplishing
threatens-
those same goals.
Right. But leaving just wreckage in his way and not covering up his tracks. Like, yeah, that would be infuriating to see something. And also to see someone threaten to take down what you've worked so hard for, your well-oiled machine, perfectly clean, under the radar, nobody knows about it. To watch Walt just come in and just wrecking ball the whole thing.
Yeah. And then Nacho.
Nacho.
Nacho and Jesse are my two favorite characters in the
We
whole
love
Breaking Bad
Nacho.
universe. Yeah. A legend.
Legendary.
Yeah, that actor was in the last scene of Spider-Man Homecoming to play the Scorpion. So I hope, what's his name?
Nacho.
Michael Mando, I think is what his name is. Yeah, Michael Mando. So
Cool.
hopefully he comes back as a Scorpion. I think that'd be cool.
hope so.
Especially after seeing him in Better Call Saul. Like I didn't care when I first saw Homecoming, and then we watched Better Call Saul, and I was like, okay, I want to see that guy in more stuff. He's good. Yeah. So Better Call Saul, I think it gives Breaking Bad a run for its money,
Agree.
and has some excellent writing. And Saul is just such an annoying character in Breaking Bad, and you're just like, dude, this is scum of the earth. Like, this is the perfect example of scum of the earth.
Mm-hmm.
And then to watch his fall, like how good he could have had it, and just like to just watch what he became.
Mm-hmm.
I like that even at the end of Better Call Saul, like when they kind of like drop you back into like the mansion, and he's got all the like, you know,
Yeah.
the glory pretty much. At the time when they're filming Breaking Bad, Bob Odenkirk was a little chubbier, a little bit more overweight, and in Better Call Saul, he's not. Like he's, you know, he's a superstar at that point. So the actor. So you know, he's much more of like a, you know, you get in shape, you get different types of roles and stuff. So
Sure.
it's interesting how they played that into like his character.
Mm-hmm.
Like him kind of like losing himself was like losing his hair and then losing his
Oh yeah.
control of his weight. And so
Mm.
yeah, great show. I remember
So
I was
great.
shocked when we finished it. I was like, I did not expect that to be just as good as Breaking Bad.
Yeah, I don't. He is somewhat important to the background of Breaking Bad, but you don't realize how great of a story. His story is. Oh man, it's not as. I don't know. I even know how to compare the two. He has a powerful story, and it was crazy to watch.
Yeah.
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 It's all connected.
That's all for Kim.
Kimmy. Poor Kimmy.
Yeah, that's our shows.
Yeah, we had a lot of overlap.
Yeah.
That's good. I was like, oh, we'll have a lot of overlap. It'll be a shorter episode. It's almost an hour 40. It's because we have more to talk about. Yeah, I don't have anything else on my list.
No.
Lots of other shows I like, but
Sure.
these are the ones that...
Oh, JJK2. I put that on the short list.
oh, yeah. Anime is like a whole separate category in my
Yeah.
brain because I have a couple.
Yeah. Got to see JJK. I'm not caught up on the manga. I have had parts of it spoiled, but
Yeah.
yeah, just see how they wrap it all up. But let us know your favorite shows. Maybe there's some that we haven't seen. We'll get around to watching. I feel like what our rotation is, and this is definitely like me, is we watch one show we haven't seen before, and then we rewatch another show.
Yeah.
And I'm the notorious rewatcher.
Yeah, he's a rewatcher. I'm always like, let's watch something new. We have so many shows that we've started and haven't finished. Peaky Blinders.
Most recently, Always Sunny.
Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Oh yeah, we were watching that, and then we just started watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine again.
Oh.
It's okay. It's nice and cozy. Bless you.
I feel like that's why I do it, because I'm grounding myself.
Yeah. This is what I know. I can predict this.
It's funny. I'm watching 2 like law enforcement shows right now.
Oh yeah.
We're watching Brooklyn Nine-Nine
In New York.
in New York. Yeah, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and then when like I'm in my room cleaning or doing whatever, I'm watching Daredevil. Just 2 totally different shows about the legal system in New York.
Such a different vibe.
Totally different vibe. But yeah, let us know what you're watching. Some of your favorite shows.
Yeah.
Maybe we'll throw some on our list
Yeah.
to watch. So
Thanks for watching.
check out the Comic Room Pod.
Check out the Comic Room Pod.
Shout
Next-
out Ethan, editor Ethan. He left a
Oh.
long comment on the podcast today.
Oh, he did?
On the Comic Room
Oh.
Pod, on my fanfic episode.
Let's go, Ethan.
I wrote a Spider-Man fan fiction. So
Yes.
if you want to see that, I'll have Dara put it in the description.
I listened to his pitch and I would watch that movie. So you guys should go listen to Joshua's Spider-Man fan fiction on the Comic Room Pod.
Yeah, I wrote my pitch for what I would do in Spider-Man 4. So yeah, if you want to hear that, link in the description.
Yeah.
And yeah, have a good rest of your week.
Yeah, we'll see you next week for books.
And
then that will be, I think that'll be our season
well,
finale.
maybe after that we could do like our favorite types of bodies of water, and then our favorite plants.
Favorite outdoor recreational activity.
Yeah, favorite
Great.
sports.
Great.
Favorite boba teas.
Favorite textures.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll just keep going and talk about things we like forever. You'll
No, but
like
next week-
it.
Next week will be favorite books, and that'll cap season 1 as like a get to know us
Yeah.
on a very entry level. Like
Yeah.
of
Hopefully
way.
this has served as a good introduction to because obviously we've given our reasons of why these things resonate with us, and not to get all philosophical, but that's how we connect online. You know, we find a common interest and we find commonalities with other people who probably are different than
Yeah.
us, through mutual love and appreciation for the values that are shown in the things that we consume. So
yeah,
that's how we connect. So,
true.
yeah. Let us know what your favorite shows are, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Logging out.
Logging out.
As always. Yippee.